are you doing?
Very good.
That's great. And where are you, in California, or?
I'm in Vancouver, Canada.
Oh, you're in the same country as I am.
Oh, you're in Canada? Awesome.
Yeah, I'm in Toronto.
There you go.
I absolutely love Vancouver. I
I spent
love
a lot of
Vancouver.
time I went to film school in Toronto.
Which one?
Ryerson.
So did I.
There you go.
What year were you there?
I didn't even finish. I was there.
Neither did I. So.
That's good. See, there you go. That's the secret to success. I was there 85 or something like that.
Okay,
84,
so
85, mid 80s. Yeah.
way before. I was there from 96 to 2000. First, I took IT management, and then I went back and they had a film certificate, and I did about 4 or 5 courses. It was supposed to be 10, and it was just so ridiculously expensive. Like, it was on the verge of like digital and film, so we were still
I
using like
remember at that point, it was when I went, it was like $1,200 a year for the whole program.
Oh no, it was. I still remember specifically for the
And I think I
production.
still owe the Canadian government that money, actually. So because I had a student loan, and I just escaped to LA.
Yeah, I think a lot of people. What was the word? Like a relief, a student loan relief program, like you apply for, and
Yeah,
they like
exactly.
go
Well, I
for
didn't apply for anything. I just took off. It was I felt that if they ever forced me to answer for it, I would just say the educational system failed me. So I'm not happy with the results.
That's
Therefore, I
fair.
shouldn't pay for it. Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. And when did you go to LA, in the late 80s or
91.
91?
Actually, at
Is
the
that
end of
when?
the end of 90. Yeah.
Great. So while we're talking about that, I mean, my first question was like, how did you um
How
end
did I
up
become a
pursuing a
famous
career in film?
director?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And how did
yeah.
you get into filmmaking? How did you get into filmmaking? Like, what inspired you?
Well, actually, I fell in love. I was never, as a kid, you know how all these directors, they grow up and they have some influence and they've had a camera in their hand when they were 8 years old and that their uncle bought them, kind of thing. And for me, it was never film. I was never into it. I grew up in Ukraine, former Soviet Union,
Mhm.
and I lived there till I was 14. So there was really nothing. There was no. I didn't. The films were just one of the media, one of the backgrounds. Books were my main focus and love. And so then I went to Canada. I actually immigrated to Canada from Ukraine in '78, I believe.
Okay.
And in the middle of my physics math course in University of Alberta, I took like an easy elective, which was like film 101, film history, film appreciation, I think it was called. Yeah, and so it worked. The first thing they showed us, it was in the middle of the semester, the January semester. The first thing they showed us was this film by Norman Jewison. It was a making of Fiddler on the Roof.
Right.
And
Right.
it was the very first time that I saw kind of the process of filmmaking. Before then, it was just a mystery to me. And I saw this guy, I saw Norman. And since then, I've told him this. But I saw Norman sitting in some trailer in Moravia or something like that in the middle of Europe, and it's snowing and the chickens are dying and nothing is going right. And he's sitting there smoking cigarette after cigarette and typing away on his typewriter, rewriting the script, I guess. And I just had this flash. I just said, I want to be that guy. It wasn't really like, I want to make movies. I want to be, a filmmaker or an artist. It was like, I want to be that guy. I want to be able to create my worlds. I want to be like this little demigod in these worlds and be able to, most importantly, to affect people like it affected me at the moment. So that was kind of my revelation. So then I dropped all my physics and math courses immediately. I'm very, very maximalist that way. And I had to wait to take courses for some reason. I can't remember. I couldn't take them couldn't join them right away. Like they already started. And so I went to the library and I spent the whole semester not going to any classes, but just reading film books. And that's all I did, was just read like theory and production. It was actually a very well stocked library on that topic. And I learned, kind of self-learned. And then I applied to Ryerson right away. I didn't even come back to University of Alberta. I applied to Ryerson and went there.
Nice. When I know in Ryerson, at least when I was trying to apply, so I was trying to apply to go into film school in that mid-90s, and they wanted like a portfolio and all that stuff. Was it the same thing in your time?
They wanted a letter. They wanted some letters of recommendations. I didn't have anybody to write me a letter of recommendation. Preferably from industry members, which is like, I didn't have anybody. They wanted a short film on whatever you want. Back then there was no real video. I think I did mine on Super 8 film. And it was very funny because I lied to get in. The letter I wrote, it was hard to get in. It was like I remember it was quite a competition for each place. There was like 3 or 4 people for each place. A lot of applicants. And so I decided to do an end run again around all that. So I said my father, it was kind of actually half truth, because I did lose my father in a car accident when I was 9 in Ukraine.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and I said that he was a film director, even though he wasn't. And then because there was no way of checking Soviet Union film director, I said he wasn't a very famous film director, and I just want to become a film director to continue what he had. And I, dropped a bit of water on the page, seemed like tears. I'm joking, but that kind of thing, and sent it in, and it worked. So I got in. I was really happy about that. I remember. But then again, once I started, I spent a year and a half, maybe 2, not full 2 years, but year and a half there, and I just got bored. I said, I pretty much know everything. It was that half a year in the library that did it.
Yeah.
I said, what they're teaching me things that I kind of already know. It seemed kind of, I just want to go do it already. And so I left with my buddy, who's quite a famous director in Canada now. He was like my partner in all this, in crime and all that.
What's his name?
And his name is Vincenzo Natali.
Okay.
He did a film called Cube. I don't know, you might have.
Oh, I know Cube. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Vince and I were kind of buddies in film school, and we left together and we started a production company that did music videos. Struggled. lived on King. No, not King. On Spadina and in the Loft district over there.
Spadina and Bloor area?
No, Spadina and like Queen, between King.
Okay,
Queen and King.
near U of T and college subway station and all that stuff.
No, way south by Skydome. It was
Queen. Right. Yes.
Yeah, between Queen and King.
So you were in the Chinatown.
Starts with an A. One-way street.
Adelaide,
exactly.
Yes.
So it's like Spadina and Adelaide. Pretty much, yeah, on the border. Yeah, and by Kensington. Yeah.
So you were doing music videos in LA with your partner, with your friend?
This was in Toronto. We started doing it in Toronto, and then we moved to. I did a John Lennon Yoko Ono thing. I broke up the band and I left, which greatly hurt his feelings, I think. But I was like, we were like together forever, and then I met my wife and we moved to LA. I said, well, onwards, bigger things. So moved to LA and started doing commercials and music videos. Also started editing. I was an editor always, but then directing came really fast. And then, it wasn't easy. It all sounds easy now, but it's a real struggle. It was I remember it was a real struggle, and no money, the worries, the whole damnation of fate thing, where it's like, I'm so good and I'm so talented. Why isn't anybody giving me a chance? Kind of thing. That whole thing, and so I kind of learned a lot even in that time. And then I became a very successful commercials director. Like one of the top guys in the world. And I was still young. I was still in my 20s. This was the crazy thing, and I was traveling all over the world doing these big commercials. Money was great, I remember at the time. So no worries, had a kid and another wife, second wife already. And I went through Italy, and I was in an airport. This is a common story. I was in an airport bookstore. And back then I was offered all these movies like The Rock and everything that Michael Bay, we were in the same company, all these same kind of things. Because I was, Bay, Fincher, we were all offered the same stuff. Right? Verbinski, or, that.
Or Verbinski, yeah.
Yeah, we were all propaganda. I don't know if you remember this company. Propaganda Films.
I know that. Okay.
Yeah, that's where I was at the time. It was like the best director roster ever, I think. Like Michel Gondry, Spike Jonze, Fincher, Bay, Verbinski, me, I can't remember him, the Brazilian guy. It was like the superstars.
Top names.
Superstars of everything, and we all wanted to do films, but we were all doing commercials. I think, who was the first one that did a film? I think it was David Fincher did California with a K.
Didn't he do Aliens 3 first, or was it California?
No, that was. Oh no, sorry, Greg Gold did California. I think.
Yeah, I think David Fincher's first film was Alien 3.
Was Alien 3? That's right. He did that
and
one.
And then he did 7.
No, then it was The Game. No, that was after.
No,
it was
7 and The Game. 7. Then after that,
Right. I remember helping him with The Game, the trailers.
Yeah, those were fantastic films, and I have never seen. That's the only Alien movie I haven't seen. I think I'm too afraid to watch it.
I'm sure it's formula. I'm sure they told them where to put the camera.
But I think from what I've read, there was a lot of studio interference, and I think that pretty much
exactly
after that he became very, very it has
exactly.
And he became David that he is.
And the crazy thing is that I didn't bite. I was offered the same stuff, but I didn't bite because I knew there would be studio interference, and I'm even more averse to it, I think, than David is. Or I just can't stand the
interference. Yeah.
I know you're doing a podcast about the studio, but I can't stand the fuckers. I don't. Yeah, but fortunately, my experience was pretty good, which we'll get to. But at that time, I knew that if I was going to do something like that, they would, I'd quit or I'd get fired. I mean, there's no question about it. It would be like that way. So I stuck it out, didn't do it. And I kind of instinctually came to the conclusion, and it was absolutely subconsciously because I didn't think about it. It wasn't my plan to actually control the material myself, and I haven't written anything at that time or done, I haven't even tried to write a script at that time. So what I did was I just went back to my first love, to my books, and I started looking through the books. And ever since I was little, I guess that's when people say, when did you become a director? I say, when I used to retell my books to kids in my camp at night while everybody was falling asleep. I was reading a book all day, and then I would retell the story to them with embellishments and with, whatever, right? And that was my adaptations. That was my directing. It's like a radio play, kind of, in a way, right? in the dark, I remember. And so that's when I first, I think, got hooked. At maybe not so much when I saw that documentary, but first I loved how they wouldn't fall asleep and they just go more and more and more and more, tell us more. So it was just, I had my nose to the ground already, but it was lucky. I was in the airport of Rome, and I'm constantly reading, that I was like spun. I went to this English book rack in the bookstore in the airport, and I spun the rack, and there's House and Fog, trade paperback, and I pulled it out, and I go, oh, immigrant story, no. I'm so good with books by then, so I could just right away tell I'm going to like it or not. Like I opened it up with the first page, third, in the middle. I go, this looks really good. So I bought it, and I went on a plane. I was doing a big commercial at the time. I went on a plane to, I believe, Indonesia or Singapore or something like that. We were shooting AT&T campaign. Read it on the plane, sitting there all in tears. Effect, especially on the plane. I think you're emotional. Like you cry at like stupid movies and laugh.
Well, you're alone, right? You're that lonely
yeah, but I
world.
think it's also the lack of oxygen or the pressure or something like that. But it works. It works to make you more emotional. So I'm sitting there and reading the book. Finished it, and I called this guy. I didn't have an agent. I didn't have anybody at the time. I was in commercials, so I called this guy that I met at a party who was an agent's assistant at William Morris at the time. And I said, hey, listen, do you guys have a way of checking on the rights? Like, how do I'd like to. And he said, yeah, let me check. We have a department for that. And he calls back and he says, and this is an assistant, like an intern type, not paid assistant. I think he was a paid assistant. And he says, no way. It's like the author won't give it to anybody. He won't sell it to anybody. He won't give it to anybody. Plus, it's going to be an Oprah book, and a lot of people are interested. But he's very protective of it, and that's it. Dead end. I said, you know what? Can you? This guy is like, he actually came through. This guy. I said, can you give me the author's phone number? And he said, well, okay, I'll try, So he found his agent, his literary agent. And somehow, I have no idea, but I got this phone number. So from Singapore, I call Andre Debut. And I say, hey, you don't know me. I just read your book. He's like, okay. And he's I've always been very, well, always. I'm not that way anymore. When I was younger, I was very, very forceful. Yeah. I could get pretty much it. People say, how did you do it? I say, well, I just wanted it. That's it. What? So I pushed and I said, let me tell you my life story. And I told him my life story, which is pretty illustrious in a way. The youth, the criminal years, all that crazy shit I went through. Yeah. And he said, well, it's kind of like my life story, he said to me. I go, really? He goes, yeah, I wrote a book called Townie about my youth and all that. I go, I'll pick it up and read it. And it is, after I read it, it's almost the same kind of delinquent, youth trying to prove yourself and finally doing it. And so I said, I want your book. And he said, well, I don't know. You haven't done anything before. I go, yeah, no, but believe me, I'm the person to do it. I feel it. I really do. And I said, you're right not to sell it to those guys. They're just gonna, and I use this horrible metaphor. So they're gonna take your child, handcuff them to the radiator, and rape it all fucking day long. The child that they're supposed to raise respectfully to a new level. I said, I won't do that. I'll raise them, I'll teach them what I know, and so on. And so he just goes, okay, let's go for it. And which was crazy, because he wouldn't to anybody, Weinstein Studios, nobody, he wouldn't. He said, let's go for it, and gave me the gift of my life, this man. And he, so we did. I paid him my own money for the option. I got the 2-year option, I remember, with an extension of, I think, another 6 months or something like that after that.
Sure.
Very expensive, actually. It wasn't cheap. And then I sat down and I did what I do best, which was procrastinated for a long time. You know, I wouldn't, listen, I have commercials to make, I'm making money, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Plus I have a whole year and a half, and, you know.
Oh yeah, I can relate.
Yeah, it was more, yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? It's like, especially since I've never done it before, imagine the fear, and especially having, you know, being raised and brought up on books and having this fear, what if I'm a piece of shit and I can't write like these guys that I admire? Because I always thought, you know, maybe, and I never tried, so I don't know. Maybe I'm awful, maybe I'm good, who knows, right? So, but the start is very scary. And
I find it interesting that you had this art of conviction and confidence to convince the guy, and then complete opposite.
Oh yeah, but that's my whole.
That's how all of us are. Like artists are like that, right?
Gerard, that's my whole life, man. I mean, it's the dichotomy of the bravest and the most chicken shit, and the you know, the strongest and the weakest, and so on. That's what, like two magnets. That's what creates that force field in between that drives it forward. You know,
for sure, man. For sure.
Like those trains that run on magnets. You
know. Yeah.
So yeah, if it was two negatives, nothing, just get stuck together. Right. Or I don't know, I'm correct scientifically, but anyway, so yeah, and then I sat in the last possible moment. I mean, it was already an Oprah. There was already people offering me to buy it from me, namely Harvey, and you know, and I told him to go fuck himself. Made an enemy for life. But
he tried to buy the book. Miramax.
Oh, I tried to buy the. He did. He tried to buy the book for Todd Field, the guy who did In the Bedroom at the time.
Okay.
It was like I don't know what happened to Todd, but he was a hot director at the time.
Interesting. And then
he told me I went to a meeting. This sounds sorry. I went to a meeting at his hotel, and, and there he is in his bathrobe. No, I went to. It was actually around the table with his assistants and stuff, and and yeah, to this day, me too.
more like me 3, right?
Yeah, because me 100. Anyway, so I told him, no, I don't want to do that. He offered me a lot of money. He offered me any movie from Miramax library that I wanted to do, so on. So I refused him. And so when it finally came to write it, I sat down and wrote it. And I wrote it in, I think, 2 weeks.
Wow.
Final thing. Yeah, which was insane. It was in a hotel in Toronto, the Windsor Arms. I remember that. The
Windsor Arms. Where is that? I'm just trying to remember.
Bloor, and that's where the festival all the time is.
Oh,
Bloor, the little boutique. No, it's a boutique hotel. It's like a little hotel on Bloor and what is the street that it's on? There used to be a film bookstore right on that street, little one. It's if you go, you know where Grand and Toy on Bloor is?
Yeah.
Fancy stores
near that area.
Yeah, and you just go. That is by U of T, right by U of T. You go anyway. Windsor Arms Hotel, famous hotel. It's like anyway. That's where I wrote the script.
2 weeks. That's quite.
It was quite a yeah. It was a feverish, crazed thing. And to tell you the truth, it hasn't changed since. I mean, the script was exactly nothing. I edited a little bit, like for length, but I think it's pretty much what I wrote. Mm-hmm.
And that I was going to ask you one of those questions afterwards, and it's amazing that I haven't read the book, right? So, but I saw the film when it came out. I remember I absolutely loved it, and I saw so many political layers in there. Like if you,
I think for people who are not who have some immigrant history, it's a, it triggers a lot of things.
Yeah, it did. And then I saw it again last week with the fresh eyes, and even it was way more meaningful now. I think it's like with the world that we're living in right now.
America,
Everywhere. I think it's everywhere now. And it was just what I loved about it. And at the time, this was 2 years after 9/11, right? Like when things were like in terms of like Middle East
true,
and Iran and
exactly,
all that stuff.
exactly.
And at that time, I remember I was watching it in theaters and I was thinking to myself, there was that sense of worry. I was still young. I was in my early 20s. Is this going to be depicted properly in terms of the Iranian family? Like I had that question throughout. And I cannot tell you that at that time, I think that was probably one of the only films, if not the only films, where it was done in such a balanced way. Like everybody was broken. Every character was broken. Everybody
Because
has
it was,
a background.
it was my family. It was, it was your family. It's like, for me, there was, and this is what I meant when I told Andre that I'm going to do it right, because it could have been, oh my God, everybody, even the plot of it seems like a Lifetime movie, it's like a horrible, thing that could have been butchered to no end. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. I mean, but that was, the Kingsley character, Barani character, Colonel, he was my stepfather, 100% modeled upon my stepfather.
I was
The
going to
mother,
ask you.
the mother was my mother. Kathy was my first wife, even down to the Mountain Dew and all these projects that she starts around the house and never finishes. She even had the same voice. And people say, "Who were you?" And I always say, "Well, I guess I was the 13-year-old kid." And at the same time, I was the cop, in a weird way, in a weird way, I was the righteous cop too, that left his family, et cetera, et cetera. And so that was very personal, and I think that's why I did it with such care, I guess.
It was done so well. I was watching with my wife. She saw it the first time, and she did not see the end coming. And like especially when the kid turns around, I'm not going to give it away for those who haven't seen it. But it reminds me it reminded me at the time, and still did to today, like a Shakespeare play, essentially. That's what it was.
That's what it was. And a Greek tragedy in a way. I think that's why people ask me what's with all the fog shots and the tree shots and the bird shots and all that. I said, that's gods. That's the gods. That's the life going on without these people.
I mean, Roger Deakins was a perfect choice for cinematographer. I mean, he just did a phenomenal job.
He's always the perfect choice.
I'm a huge. The two cinematographers that I really look up to is him and Janusz Kaminski, of course. Like
Janusz is great, no question about it. I thought that Conrad Hall Sr.
was great.
Comparable.
For
since
sure.
You're probably doing American Beauty and stuff.
American Beauty, yeah.
I mean, he's unreal. He's better, I think, than Deakins even was. Unfortunately, he died just before my film.
I think did he do Road to Perdition, or did he die after?
Yeah, no, he did Road to Perdition. That was his last film. Yeah, Connie Hall. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
So imagine me, first-time director, having written the script for the first time, and suddenly I got Roger Deakins.
I know
James Horner, Ben Kingsley, Jennifer Connelly, just coming off an Oscar. They both just coming off an Oscar.
Ben Kings, Jennifer was in Beautiful Mind.
Jennifer, Beautiful Mind, and Ben was coming off nomination for maybe he won Sexy Beast.
Oh yes, he did.
Whether he won or
which leads to my next question. I mean, obviously you got DreamWorks was new at the time. They had been 6 years in business. I mean, when your studio is new, they'd like to take chances and all that. Before we go into the casting, like how did it land at DreamWorks? Who did you pitch it to? Was it Spielberg or somebody else at DreamWorks?
Pitch to anybody. Didn't pitch to anybody. It was a weird fairy tale, the whole thing. I'll tell you how. This is all going to sound like I'm just blowing my own horn, but it actually went down this way. It's the truth. what happened is the script was so fucking good, you know, just because the material was so good. It just came together. It wasn't my genius by any means, but the script was so attractive to people, even though it's completely uncommercial and completely, you know, but it was attractive to mini majors, let's say it that way, the topic. Because people, I think, felt the profoundness and what you were talking about, how it's even more important now and all this. They felt that this isn't just like a quick movie. It's a movie that will be remembered.
Yeah.
And so everybody wanted to be involved with it. I remember I was barraged by actors, by producers, by studios, and I was producing it myself with absolutely no experience. So I got Michael London to kind of take the brunt of that, but at a very like almost a late stage, you know, he came in. I already had the actors, I believe, at that point, and the studio actually I already had. But the way the studio came about was, you know, there was a model that was like foreign and domestic. So for foreign,
Paramount?
no, it wasn't Paramount at all. I flew to it was no majors. It was independent. It was a guy named Stuart Till, a company called Signpost at the time.
Okay.
Kind of, you know, like foreign sales company.
Got it.
Later he went to, I think he was at Universal Paramount, something. He was the head of foreign. And so it was a private funding company kind of thing. And I met him at Cannes. And I flew there to pump the movie. Who paid for that, actually? I'm just thinking. Who paid for the trip to Cannes and the brochures and all that? Anyway, I met, oh no, it was already Stuart. I met Stuart in LA. I met Stuart the Four Seasons in LA. He says, come to my room. People, I should just say I just went to people's rooms. That's how I got the movie made. No, you know, he was like busy passing through, you know, big financier guy. And he says, listen, I read your script. He called me. I read your script last night, and I couldn't sleep all night. You know, really emotional, really. Can you come? Like, I'm flying out. Can you come meet with me right away? I said, yeah, where are you? Four Seasons. I've, you know, went to Four Seasons over there in Burton Way. And, you know, he's sitting there, he's a suite, sat down, and he said, here, coffee, whatever. And he said, I want to do your movie. How much do you think it's going to cost? And I'm like, you know, I've never done a movie. I have no idea. So I pulled if I can figure out of my ass. I said, just 15 million, you know. He goes, 15, yeah, that's exactly what it cost in the end. It was like 15 plus a little bit, plus later they added a little bit for the score. But it was like 15 million, guessed right. And he goes, you know, I can probably give you 9 of it for foreign rights. And he's like, I have no lawyer, I have nobody. I'm just like, I'm sitting there, this commercials director, and I'm going, okay, yeah, put on an important face. I go, that seems really good, 9. He goes, and the rest you could just get domestically from whoever, the 6 million. I said, good. He goes, okay, so give me together with your people. I go, okay, I gotta get the people first. You know? And so I got the people. Of course, no shortage of that. And they negotiated. So 9 million is his. Then I flew to Cannes. And then at some point, I can't remember I think it was my lawyer's idea at the time. And he said, or my manager's idea, he said, let's do like, you know, like not an auction where somebody pays the most money, but who wants it more, and who among domestic people,
Yeah.
and who, you know, who has, and this is important, this is what he told me, thank God he told me, who has like a slate that doesn't have conflicting things coming up, you know, and who will give you the control and the freedom, most important.
Yeah.
And of course a better back end, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Right, so we went into with that, and I remember it was like 5 or 6 mini majors, all calling me, presidents, me, the kid from fucking Kiev, calling me and going, this is, you know, this is what we can offer, this kind of a sales campaign, this kind of, you know, like an awards campaign, blah, 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 blah. I mean, just based on the script. And already attachments. I think at that point, it was already attachments. Jennifer was already there, Ben was there. and no crew yet. So based on that, I said, well, DreamWorks, of course. And Harvey was in on that, of course, even at that stage. Later on, Harvey managed to somehow be involved. He bought England from Stuart Till.
He bought what?
And he released it in UK.
Oh, he did.
Interesting. After all that, it was his, yeah. He needed to be involved somehow, without my knowledge. Well, he bought it from DreamWorks. He bought UK from DreamWorks, I think. Yeah.
That's interesting you mentioned that, because a couple of years before that, and I think it was 1999, at the Oscars, when Saving Private Ryan had come out and Shakespeare in Love had come out. I mean,
oh yeah, that was a big fight.
Big fight. Huge.
Terry Press from DreamWorks, who I'm sure you know, yeah. And Harvey's people, it was war. I mean, it was like they didn't like each other at all, and I didn't like Harvey either at all. So for me, it was a pleasure to go up against his stuff, and it was it's interesting. It was so anyway, that was part of the consideration. And so we did it, and DreamWorks gave me a kind of an unprecedented deal too. You know, they gave me Final Cut, which really means nothing. Just so you know, Final Cut. When the director says he got Final Cut, they can just say, "Well, fuck you. We're not going to release the movie then. Do whatever you want," you know, or you know, yeah, we'll just sit on it. We have other movies to release, you know, kind of thing, right? If they're a studio, that's what Harvey used to do all the time. And I got first dollar gross, which is, nobody gets that anymore. I don't think even the top stars do anymore. You know what that means, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it means that whatever variety shows, you get a percent of it.
Those are that, yeah.
Yeah, percent of box office and DVD and all that.
I think Tom Cruise still gets that.
Maybe, yeah, but not 10%.
No.
Which is what I had.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll be revealing some sort of secrets right now, but in your podcast. But that was my deal. Yeah, so it was unprecedented for a first-time director to get something like that.
And how? So getting, you know, Sir Ben Kingsley on board, and Jennifer Connelly, who had, you know, who's done films like Labyrinth.
It was a dream. It was a dream. Yeah.
What was it like meeting them the first time, or working on the set with them, or any memorable story that you can remember from a scene or behind the scene?
Well, Ben is a very Sir Ben. I call him, he allowed me to call him Ben. But
he's a very humble guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. We're really good friends, actually. So he, you know, but at the time, I was very intimidated. I remember, even though I'm not the intimidated type, but he's, you know,
presence.
Yeah, his presence and his undeniable talent, and his, you know, and he doesn't suffer fools at all. And you know, and here I am, first-time director, and you know, God knows what the fuck this guy's gonna do, or how he's gonna torment me, type of thing. So I might as well do a preemptive strike before that and show him who's boss, type of thing. You know, that's all the
stuff. That's what directing is. You gotta put your foot down.
Exactly. So I was talking from his side, not me doing a preemptive.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't have the ammunition to do the preemptive strike at the time. So we just got along. We just incredibly, was extremely respectful, and a lovely working relationship, really was. And in the end, we became friends, because actually during it, we became friends. When we were promoting the film, we were together, you know, all the time. And he was extremely complimentary, like because he's a genuine guy. in a genuine way, as far as my directing goes, which I just kind of winged it because I didn't know what I was doing really that much. I learned fast. Like about halfway through the movie, I learned how to direct movies. But at first, I was like, I don't know what I can do, But I pretended well, and
Yeah.
so that everybody kind of bought my self-confidence and all that. And so yeah, he was a good guy, a really good guy. And Jennifer was lovely too, absolutely. She was in the throes of love at the time with Paul Bettany. They just met and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But it was, I don't think Jennifer was ever more beautiful than she is in my film. You can't name any other film where she's like, and she's one of the most beautiful people in the world. And the talent, which I saw. And it's a fucking crime that she wasn't nominated for any of the awards.
I was gonna say, I mean, she was
Fucking crime.
wrong.
Fucking crime. These fucking
She
assholes at the Academy.
she was like the whole her whole arc, the way she brought that out. You see
Who
it
the
from
fuck? Who the fuck? This is going to be good on your podcast. Who the fuck remembers Lord of the Rings 3? And what the fuck went on in that movie? Who the hell?
That's Return of the King. I'll tell you, I was talking to somebody a couple of days ago. I slept through the movie. I couldn't
It's a
take it.
piece of shit.
It was
The whole
too much.
fucking the whole thing is a piece of shit. That is absolutely has a fucking shelf life of 3 years, 5 years, and that's it. Now you look at it, it looks laughable. The effects and these orcs and all that stuff. It's just, it doesn't have the staying power. It doesn't have the profoundness, the importance, and all that. But anyway.
I enjoyed the first one very much, and I'm glad that you mentioned the staying power, and I feel that's something in our society as well as in film. We're always thinking short term.
Yeah, it's disposable.
Like nobody thinks about what will it do in 10, 15 years, and then they think about it when that time has arrived. It's too late now, right? Like you don't think about the
and
legacy.
we remember Forrest Gump. We remember, we remember American Beauty. We remember E.T. and things like that are timeless films. House of Sand and Fog on a lesser level, but still, But no, but this fucking shit. I call it the McDonaldization of cinema. It's all like
now
fucking,
more than ever before.
Yeah, it's nuggets. Here yum yum yum. And that's it, and we forget them.
And instant gratification, right? Like
we eat them, we shit them out, and we forget them. And that's it.
And that's why I actually personally, honestly, like maybe once in a blue moon, I'll watch something that came out new, like Top Gun, the new Top Gun that came out. After a long time, I saw a good movie in theaters. A long time.
That's nostalgic value.
Yeah, but it did have a good simple story. Like there were some emotional scenes. It was done properly. It wasn't. It's not.
I just made a good movie. I just made a movie that is, I think, comparable. I'm not talking about House of Fog. That was my first. I just made a film that completed House of Fog. It's been released all over the world, 50 countries. It's called Persian Lessons in a Strange Coincidence.
The Iranian and the Jewish. I gotta see that. I saw it
the concentration camp film. You should see this film. I'll send you a link after if you want.
Yeah, I would love to. I'd love to see
that.
And
it's released in 50 countries, like even despite COVID, and it fought its way through. It was released in China, 23,000 screens. And wow. It was nominated for their first foreign Oscar. And the Anthony Hopkins film Father, I think, won. So it was one of the 5 non-Chinese films that they chose from the world. It was premiered Berlin Film Festival, played all over the place, won at awards all over the place. Here. It's a good film.
No, I would love to check it out.
I don't think it'll be released in the States. I don't know what they're doing with it. It's Colin Media. And they are, I'm doing a lot of Jewish film festivals and winning them, for what it's
Oh,
worth.
of
They said
course.
that
Mhm.
might have been a good like run up to. We were up for an Oscar, and then they disqualified us because we submitted it from Belarus, and it wasn't enough people from Belarus in the film, even though we shot it there, and all the extras and support and all that was Belarus. So I guess we tried to get around. So they disqualified us. But it did really well. It was nominated for best film at the European Oscars and so on. It was a good
I would
film.
love to. I'd love to see it. Yeah, we can definitely exchange
You are
film.
gonna love it because if you loved Hans Sennenfog, you're gonna love it. You'll see. You'll
I
see the same
I
things.
I will I will send you a link.
Okay.
One of the two films, and one of them is about an Afghan who speaks Persian, and that's all I'll say. It's a crazy story. He leaves his he's an Afghan filmmaker, and he comes under threat from Taliban, and they give him basically like death threats. So he fled Afghanistan without saying
Documentary?
goodbye. Yeah, but it's narrative without saying goodbye to his family. Like he just walks out, wife, kids, father. This is around the 20 this was 2015 when the refugee crisis happened, and he ended up in Europe's worst refugee detention center, Moria camp in Greece. And then he's secretly documented inside, and I kind of we both co-directed it, and I wrote it, and you would love it. You would absolutely
Oh,
love it.
send it to me. Send it to me.
Yeah, we got shortlisted
Yeah,
at Hot Dogs and a few other festivals, and we're just now going through the whole distribution process. But anyways, yeah, would love to exchange that.
very cool. Yeah,
Cool.
Persian Lessons is like a Hollywood movie. It's slick. It's slick movie, but now it has become it's like it's entered the pantheon, which is kind of cool. The Pianist, Schindler's List, and
Yes,
Life is Beautiful pantheon. Like it's in there with those on that scale, which is pretty cool for me.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
I wanted to ask you about cinematography. I mean, every director works differently. This is for the audience. Maybe I'll learn something out of it too. Is a lot of directors work differently, right? Like for example, Quentin Tarantino, he likes to be right next to the cameraman working with the actors. Then there are directors, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just personal style, who would not be involved in the camera as much, but more with the actors, and they would sit in front of a monitor. How did you work with Roger, and what was it that like were you hands-on at camera at every time, or was it just like okay, let
No,
him?
no. I tried to be because that's kind of my nature, you know. But then he hissed at me like a cat, just went, and I backed off, and rightfully so. I mean, he's Roger Deakins. Fuck, am I going to tell him? But but I tried to be involved somehow. It's a sign of inexperienced directors when they try to affect every step of the thing, trying to justify their presence there, right?
But I think my and I'm like that too. Like because before you become a filmmaker, you're a cameraman, right? Like
Exactly,
we
exactly.
all have. So that's kind of like engraved in our head that
Yeah,
we
but we're
have to.
shitty cameramen.
I know
That's what
for
we have to
sure.
remember. We're not a good cameraman.
But we think we're great cameramen, right? So in
Yeah,
our head
right,
we think like that.
right, right. No, actually,
But
it's funny because I worked a lot in Russia in the last few years, and their system of working with they call them operator, which means operator, different, but operator means DP in Russia.
yeah.
And it is a absolute co-working, whatever. It's a partnership where you let him set the shot,
Mm.
and that's how I work with Roger. It's not how I worked with everybody, but that's how I work with Roger. Yeah, because let him, out of respect and all that, and so he did, and it's just comes so easily to him,
Oh,
whereas
genius.
I have to rack my brain, just even blocking the scene. I've been doing commercials at that time for maybe a decade and a half, maybe more, and but I've never done like 4 people, like the eviction scene. I've never done, people crossing the thing and him going sitting down there and this guy's there and that guy's there and she walks over here and says something. Like, I don't fucking know how to cover that even. I don't have I do now, but back then I had no idea. And the way we work, if you want to know the actual process, what Roger taught me was, and this is, I'm sure it's not unique, but it was unique to me at the time, we get into the set, and let's say it's like the eviction scene, right?
Mhm.
And it's me, Roger, first AD, sound guy, maybe the art director's there, and so on. And the actors, before makeup even, get them all in there, get everybody the fuck out of the stage. So there's no talking, no noise. They're all out there smoking and doing whatever. And we have this, the house to ourselves, the room to ourselves. And we just, and I say to the actors, show us what you're going to do in this space, like theater,
Yeah.
and yeah, and they walk, and Ben goes, well, I don't know, I picked this up, or he's feeling the space, he's creating as much as I am as a director in the moment, not just movement, but even like, I think it'd be better, I'll say, I think this would be better backlit, the whole thing where like this person's more threatening as a silhouette type of thing. Just so if I had a choice of doing it like this or like that, let's do it like that. Back is against the window, and go, okay, well, let me rethink the whole thing. And meanwhile, Roger's sitting there watching it all, with one eye, and the AD and me are writing down. I have a diagram writing the little angles of cameras, and then thank you at the end. Everybody go to makeup. And Roger goes to read his newspaper, which he does every morning. He sits in the corner of the stage on a chair, on one of those stools, and opens up the LA Times and reads it. And I'm standing there going, how the fuck am I going to film this? Right? And now I'm left alone, which is like the worst fear of every director, I think, at some point. And before I had the experience of how to film like multi-person scenes with movement and so on, it's harder than you think.
It's
I watched
very
Steven. Steven brought me to the terminal set one time.
I was gonna say he does blocking and
my God, I've never seen anything like it in my life. How easy it comes to him. He's a savant. I mean, he's a fucking savant. He really is. Yeah.
If you remember Minority Report, this somehow is the only scene that is engraved in my head. When Colin Farrell's character pushes Tom Cruise's character in the elevator, and it's all one shot, and the way the camera moves, you can't tell if the camera is moving or the people are
they're
moving.
Yeah.
And that's craft, right? Like that's just
Steven reacts to this after he saw my movie. He said, the one shot, oh wow. He was like, oh wow, one shot. I'm going, which one? Like, what? He goes, when Kingsley comes into his apartment, goes to the washer, comes back out, checks the mail. It was a one shot too. Checks the mail, and then the kid comes in with bloody knees. And that was one shot. And I show their whole world, all their photos and everything. In the meantime, he walks out of the shot, and I go along the photos and so. And I do this all the time in all my films, but back then it was my first time. He goes, wow, Vadim, wow, this is a great shot. He loves the one shot deals.
And you're right. It's so amazing. You can say so much by not saying anything, by just showing visuals, right? Like
plus it's easier.
Yeah. But at the time you're thinking. But at the time, you're thinking that, well, is this something that's going to convey emotion or what you're trying to do to the audience? Like even
it can't be just a stupid shot for the sake of a shot.
I know.
It has to have content and meaning.
But even Jennifer Connelly's backstory, her character Kathy's backstory, you don't meet her mom, you don't meet her brother, you don't meet her ex-husband. But in that scene where she's lying down on the bed in the beginning, I think that's when she was introduced. You figure out her entire
everything.
backstory.
And she's lying to them, and I wrote that. That's not in the book. Yeah, I wrote that. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's exposition, subtle exposition. Where you're just telling about the characters without using devices like, well, you're the best student in the class. Things like that. The mother says to the kid, whatever.
There was I don't know if you ever seen that show, People versus the OJ Simpson, the one that came out 4 or 5 years ago with John
Oh,
Travolta.
with what's her name? There was Tonya Harding. No,
No, no.
somebody
I can't
played
remember.
the prosecutor, Marcia Clark.
I know I don't remember her name, but she's a very famous actress.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
was in the Post with Tom Hanks and Spielberg. So she had a very small role. But there was a scene. Basically, the prosecutor and the defense, they were doing crazy things to each other behind the scene, and the judge told Johnny Cochran's character that you need to put an end to this. So he goes out in the courthouse, and there's a balcony, and she's smoking there. He goes out. He stands right next to her. He gives her a coffee. He walks back,
To the
and
prosecutor?
yeah, and he walks back. Johnny Cochran walks back, and he opens the door, and he looks across just to look at her what she's doing, and she nods, and that's it. Like they just came at peace in that one, and that was so wonderfully done.
Yeah.
It like matter of minute, not even. And instead of having a long dialogue, well, I apologize for that. I apologize for that. It
That's
was
a
just
great
done.
moment. Yeah. I haven't seen it, but that sounds great. Yeah.
It's on
Yeah.
Disney Plus. You should check it out.
Economy. Yeah, if you can do the film as a silent film, try that.
Yeah,
That's the way I always look at it. Try
my
that.
first.
Turn off
Yeah,
the sound when you're editing, because I edit most of it myself too. Go turn off the sound and look at it, see if it works. If it doesn't work, if you need the sound to make it work, then
and it's not. Yeah, I think
it's not.
Stanley Kubrick used to do that too, if I'm not mistaken. I think.
Yeah, I didn't know. I don't. That's a crazy thing. I don't emulate anybody. I don't like to emulate.
No,
So,
that's really
but
good.
I'm
And
sure there's.
well, the thing is, I think for people, some people, there's inspiration, right? You emulate at a certain point, but then after, if you're not finding your own voice, then you're not you. Like you get
Exactly.
inspired, but then you got to figure out who the heck you are. What's your story? What are you trying to
This is
tell?
shameful for me. It's shameful. I remember I was and it was an absolute accident. You probably are going to write about that. The pier scene.
So which scene?
When Jennifer's on the pier.
Yeah, at the
In
end. Yeah.
Alcen and Fog. Yeah, with the birds and all that.
Yep.
There's 2 films before that where Jennifer Connelly was on a pier with exactly the same angles, everything. One was The Crow. Another one was what's the Aronofsky film?
Requiem for a Dream.
Another was Requiem. Exactly the same. Look it up online. The pier shot from Alcen and Fog, and the pier shot from. And I was the third and last. But
Was that?
I had no idea. I didn't
Oh,
see.
you didn't.
I don't remember. I never saw The Crow, so I don't know that. But I don't. I saw Requiem for a Dream, but I don't remember it. Didn't remember. It didn't stick in my mind. The pier shot. Maybe somehow it did. I don't know. So it was like one of those weird, like,
That's crazy.
coincidences. Yeah, like karmic coincidences where Jennifer Connelly in a fucked up state is on a pier. From her back, she's like walks onto the pier. And I remember how mine came about. That shot was not scripted. It was not in the schedule, that whole scene on the pier. That scene saved us. I remember it was one of the moments where Roger indulged me, because we were waiting to shoot on this beach in Malibu. We were waiting to shoot the bathroom where she changes her armpits.
Yeah.
And and washes herself and changes whatever. And we were waiting for dark, because he didn't want to black out that whole little bathroom. It was like a tourist bathroom. And so we had the whole time of like nothing. And I looked at this pier. We're sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah.
I looked at the pier. I said, let's shoot on this pier. Look at all those pelicans and stuff, and like all these birds. And if she walks, I think they'll all fly up. Right. because she'll scare them, and as she walks, it will fly up. It was my music video commercial thing. And he said, and then what? Roger goes, then so we'll shoot from the back. I said, and then you get on the thing with her, and we fuck up her eyes so that she looks haunted, and we'll just spin around her. You'll just like walk around her. He goes, I have the whole fucking unit here, Vadim. We're gonna spin around her. The whole parking lot behind the pier is our trucks, and our whole thing. I go, we got the time. Let's get rid of the trucks. Put them up on the highway on PCH. And so it was like one of those, Roger goes, all right, and we did it. And that shot was not supposed to be in the film at all. And that shot came about from Steven's note. When he saw the cut, I had a scene. This is inside knowledge. I had a scene where Barani drives home from the hospital. With his blood on his hands, the ring and all that, right? And drives home. And he walks in the house, and as you remember, Nadi was in the bedroom. I have a headache. She'd left when they were sitting there together, and Jennifer was on the couch like this. Kathy was on the couch, and she looks up at him and sees the blood on his shirt and blood. And he walks in. I have this scene filmed. It's on the DVD deleted scenes. And he goes like this. He just spreads his arms like this and walks towards her. And for the umpteenth time in this film, you think, oh, everything's gonna be okay. They're gonna make up. They're gonna come together, America and the foreign people, right? And he walks towards her like this, and she kind of rises up to meet him, and he puts his hands around her neck and throws her down on the couch and chokes her to death. I mean, literally, breaks her neck. He hears her, and he's an animal. And I filmed it down, like all through this. Her legs are scrabbling around. She's scratching his arms. I mean, like all this stuff. This insane scene with one light through the window. Look it up. Look on the.
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, and I had that. Then he goes to the bathroom cabinet, takes the pills, and therefore the end. Then she wakes up on the couch. I had that filmed, which never sat right with me, but okay, she didn't die, right? She wakes up, this is in the script, and walks to the bedroom and weeping, and same thing. So Steven says, fucking enough already. He says, it's like, because it is so powerful. It's more powerful. It's probably the most like hold your breath moment when he's killing her that I filmed. It ended up being so fucking powerful. And Steven says, listen, maybe it's too much. I mean, like, it's too much to have the bag scene, the kids scene, the hospital scene, it's like waves of horror and tragedy, like horror and tragedy just washing over you and beating you. Like, it's like, like stop the fight kind of thing already. The guy's knocked out. And I said, yeah, maybe you're right, but how the hell am I going to get her? Where is she going to be when he comes home? If she's not on the couch, like, conceptually, where's she going to be? And I said, oh, I have the pier scene. I have that thing that I did spinning around on the pier. So if you notice, she never actually opens and closes the door. I just had her come from the geography of the place. Was when she came from the couch, she stood with her back to the front door for a second, looking down the hall. And that's when I put a sound of the closing door there, as if she walked in, and that's how I got around the whole thing. It was the pier thing came in handy.
Was that scene in the book originally? The way he
Yeah.
Okay. So it was in the book.
It was in the book. Yeah, it was in the book where he.
What I found in the ending, the Pier scene, so the whole film was very.
Pier scene was a save. Pier scene was like a long pass.
I mean, it was the only. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was the only scene that was handheld, right? Like when the camera is going around her.
Trying to remember. Uh,
Not the long shot of her standing at the pier, but
yeah,
just
Roger doesn't really like handheld.
I
No,
was
but
gonna say because it didn't.
1917. But we never had Steadicam. That's one thing I know, because I hate Steadicam too.
Hmm.
And and I learned it from him to hate it. I learned a lot from Roger.
So you
You
just
know, how to,
use dolly.
but yeah, always dolly and always an arm and always remote head. You know, he had these little wheels, pretty good at it. You know,
Yeah.
and he always had, I don't know how he works now, but he had his black and white monitor, not even a color monitor, that he looked at, and he sat there and did the wheels. And he had Terry, I can't remember the guy's name. Terry, you know, the guy pushing the dolly was a special guy, and the guy holding the head was a special guy to come down, go up. And he would get these incredible invisible moves with these guys, where he's just controlling the head, this guy's controlling the tilt and the swing of the arm, and the other guy is the speed of the arm, the speed of the dog. And so it's like three-man show, plus Andy on the focus pull, who's like never seen anything in my years, been shooting now for 30 whatever years, and before that all these commercials, never seen anybody pull focus like that. He's a god. Andy
That's a
will
very
dominate.
skillful and underrated job.
Yeah, without a monitor.
Yeah.
Like now they're all staring at their little monitor and doing the thing. I don't know what
Yeah.
they see in this monitor, you know. He's just standing, just going like this by eye. You know, it's unreal. And the camera is always moving. If you watch House 7 O'Clock, always floating. It's floating invisibly, you know, like very beautifully and subtly.
But I think that's a combination of writing and performances, right? Like when you're enjoying, when you're connected to the characters, and if the camera, it obviously all credit goes to Roger, but it becomes seamless
No,
when you're
not all
so,
credit. Not all credit to Roger. I have some credit too.
you know what I mean, right? Like in terms of the
By the
movement.
end of the film, I started designing the shots. Yeah, but
Okay,
anyway.
I'll give you credit. But what I
Thank you.
mean is the performance really draw you in, right? Like you
Of
forget about
course, it's
everything
about the
else.
people. Of course,
Yeah.
that's why we shot it so simply. I mean, you know, there was no like, look at us, look how fucking cool we are.
Yeah.
Look at me, I'm Roger Deakins, you know, like, and look at me, I'm Vadim, who shot like hundreds of commercials that are pretty cool looking. It wasn't like that.
Good.
No, it was very much. It's all about the actors. It's all about the performance, and you want to be respectful of them.
And there's
You
space.
don't go, look at me, look at me. You don't want to go like, look what I can do. Like, you know, like the idiots directors that I think, you know. Look how fucking cool! Look how cool this bullet stops mid-flight. Or like, oh, you know. And then I look up, and then I look down, and then it's like I'm under the table shooting the scene. You know, it's off. You know, that's what's wrong with movies. That's what makes them disposable now, because it's not about the story. It's not about the emotion anymore. Yeah. It's about. Visual. You remember that? You're Canadian. You remember Blowed Up Real Good, right? When they had that SCTV SCTV critics, they go, blowed up real good. Yeah, that one blowed up real good.
No, it's true, because now it's like all, you know, effects and story has become secondary. And whenever like people like Martin Scorsese or Francis Ford Coppola or Steven Spielberg, or, you know, like the legends that we grew up on, they talk about, again, I'm not attacking superhero films, but I don't watch superhero movies at all. I have no interest in them.
I don't either.
Zero.
I don't even know. I have no idea what, like, who these people
neither
are.
Do I.
You know,
if you want to call Christopher Nolan movies superhero movies, I don't. I that's the only one that I watched, and I saw the
That's
Tim
different. That's different.
Yeah.
Christopher is an auteur. He's a filmmaker. He's not a fucking sausage factory guy. Yeah.
So, but it's just, the market has just become so saturated now. I don't even watch anything that comes out unless it's like a mini series or something like that.
Yeah, I like the stuff. Some of the TV is good.
Yeah.
Some of the series is good.
Post-production, you worked with Lisa Zeno, right? Is that
Yep. Churgan.
How involved were you in that? Like, were you physically with?
Well, I was an editor.
Okay,
before I became even a director of commercials, and then I edited a lot. And I'm a pretty good editor. not so much narrative, more like music video and stuff like that back then.
Sure.
So yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
And how? Sorry, go on.
But she did 95% of the work.
Yeah.
I would take it home and
Assembly it and everything, and
no, just like try different things and bring it back, and she just take the time code and put it in as a director. Hands-on. That was hands-on. Persian Lessons, the film you'll see, Persian Lessons, I cut the whole thing. She did the first pass, the editor, just assemble, and then I fine cut it.
Okay.
Here, where I'm sitting right here, on the editor. Yeah.
And in terms of like, I started off as an editor and then cameraman myself, and I know, and I've edited feature docs for other people, but I've done mine as well and with an editor. But at the same time, what was like when you were editing? And I know it's a very, very great time, but also it can be like very much stressful, right? Like when you're two different minds and the editor is giving
it's a beautiful time.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful time. I'll tell you what.
You're basically putting a life together, in my view, right?
I tell you what you're doing in a very cool way, I hope. Especially when you're a writer as well, and when you're a director and editor, when you're wearing all those hats. When you write something on the script, it's limitless. It's open. It's perfect, right? Hopefully, like you see the thing perfectly, right? When you're filming it, even with Roger Deakins, even with those actors, even with everybody, there's always a disappointment. There's sometimes pleasant surprises where you go, oh, wow, I didn't know this would turn out this good. Or I didn't know the light would hit just right here. I didn't know he would not me. That's a mistake. He would bring this moment as an actor to this emotion and this thing. There's always pleasant surprise, but most of it is disappointments. Most of it is like, fuck, we didn't have enough time to do that. And then fuck, I wish I did it from this angle, and I wish I held on to this longer, blah, blah, blah. I wish it didn't rain. I wish it rained, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's where, from that 100% that it was when you said fade out at the end of the script, that's when it became hopefully somewhere in the 90s, but quite often somewhere like in the high 80s, if you had to put a number to it as far as quality. And the edit process is getting it back up to 100. When you sit there and you try and get it back up to 100, using the pleasant surprises, the faults, and the original stuff that's same as the script, to get it back up there, somewhere to the high 90s, hopefully. Never 100, but somewhere there. And sometimes 100. Sometimes you think, oh, this is fucking now become even worse. It's now 70. At the end of the edit, and then you see it with an audience. It could be, oh no, it actually works. It actually, wow, I was an idiot to think so. It actually, they actually feel it, and you go, okay, 95, whatever. That's kind of my.
No, it's true that you mentioned that, because there are moments. So for my two films that I finished simultaneously, we're doing screenings everywhere, all over the world, and every time I go and sit and watch this with the audience, and then they react and ask questions, it's always the things that I felt, oh my God, this was gonna have an impact on people. Those moments never do. And it's always the ones that I never thought in my wildest dreams would have an impact, they do. So it's amazing how the audience psyche works.
No, this is I'm afraid to say, this is a product of your talent. For you to become better and to be more talented, you've got to see this shit beforehand. You got to feel this shit beforehand, and never make that mistake. That's reaching your personal best, is when you can go, I can feel it, therefore I know how to make them feel it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I know.
And then you're sure, oh, this will make them. Like I'm cutting when I'm cutting the final scene in Persian Lessons, You know, I'm sitting there cutting it. I have tears in my eyes.
Yeah.
Even though I've seen it, I know every goddamn, inch of this thing. I have tears in my eyes and I go, this, if it fucking still works on me, it's going to work on them. So I know it's going to work.
No, you're right. And the same thing, like, when you're cutting an emotional scene or the ending and it's emotional and you're crying, but then sometimes you're wondering, have I become so close to, like, do you ever feel that you become so close
Well, of
to it?
course, of course. But if it can, if the emotion of the scene can cut through that to you, which happens to me, often. Not because I love it so much, I love my work so much.
No, I
It's
know,
not about that at all, but more like, holy fuck, it affects me still to this day. Like that one note when it hits and the way he raises his eyes, I still get that jolt. I said, then of course it's going to work on the audience. That's not, dulled by repetition of this thing. And that's what I always, and that's your talent. That means you haven't reached the talent yet. If the audience, you always have surprises from the audience, but if you know that this should work, this better work with the audience. Otherwise, you're just shooting in the dark. Trying to, you know what I mean? You gotta be a little more controlled with it and saying, I know this will work.
Got it.
And then have it confirmed, later.
No, that's a great advice. I appreciate that.
I've had with my latest film, it's a Holocaust movie. It takes place in a concentration camp. And the audience laughed probably half the film. In Berlin, it was my first public showing in this giant fucking Berlin palace. And they laughed. Germans.
Wow.
It's hilarious. They laughed at this poor Jews fucking, and everything. I went, oh my God, what have I done? I'm fucking, I completely missed the thing. And then the lights came on and I saw the tears in their eyes and the 15-minute ovation and all that. And I went, oh, okay, well, it's good. Yeah, I meant for them to laugh. Yeah, oh yeah, it was all planned out. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll see what I mean when you see the film.
No, I'm looking forward to forward to seeing your film. What would, just a couple of more questions, and then what advice would you give to people who are watching it, who are either trying to break into the film industry or still in it and just kind of going through the struggles like we all do?
Advice to what end?
Just personally, like,
do you remember that great line? I can't remember who it was. I think it was Betty Davis or one of those sharp-tongued old actresses. And they said, what advice do you have for a starlet coming to Hollywood? And she goes, always take Fountain. Which is like the street for traffic. When you come to Hollywood, it's better to take Fountain than Santa Monica or Wilshire. Mm-hmm.
Got it.
So not got it. I'm not sliding off the question, but I'm just more specifically to become a director, to what? To be able to what advice to what end?
To an end, like whether it's screenwriting, it's not generalizing, but just I feel that whether you're a sound, like a boom person or cinematographer or an editor, the struggle is all the same. Right, like you're gonna get knocked down, you're gonna get pushed down, you're gonna get rejected.
Well, it's like every job. Yeah.
Pardon me?
It's every job. I mean, it's every career that you choose. You have an upward path. You need to get in, unless you're entering a family business or something like that, and then you need to prove yourself.
No, you're right, but like in terms of like, okay, if you compare to like a 9-to-5 job, there's that sense of security, right? Like you have, okay, but are you happy? Probably not. So a lot of us, like people in arts, or even if you start your own business, has nothing to do with entertainment.
Same thing.
You're gonna have tough days. You're gonna have tough years, maybe. And how do you overcome?
I've had nothing but tough years. Yeah.
We all do, right? And it never ends. Even if you're like someone like Spielberg or Scorsese, you will struggle. It just never ends. So, and people like Spielberg or people like yourself or Scorsese, they've kind of got adapted to that thing. That's just the lifestyle. But people who are not, and they're not used to that, no matter what it is, like, how do you feel? I mean, they should overcome that. Just keep
Okay, I'll tell
trying.
you what the difference is between Spielberg, Scorsese, me to a certain extent, not quite as much as those guys, obviously, but is that we have proven to ourselves at one point, with results at some point, that we're good. Okay, or that we can sometimes be good, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
We have proven that to ourselves. You, as a beginner, you have not proven that yet. So what I suggest, in answer to your question, is that you blindly believe in that before you have the actual results. And when you blindly, like I did that, and you blindly believe, you fool yourself. And if you can fool yourself really well, you can fool the others. They'll think, oh, this kid is fucking. I left Canada to tell you a great example, because I was always the same. Like I said, really pushy, really, always, believing in myself blindly, and then later at night by myself, not believing in myself at all, of course. But that's where. But the front was that I believe in myself tremendously. In Canada, they didn't like that shit. In Toronto, actually, they don't like that shit at all. They think, who is this cocky fucking, who is this cocky? Who do you think you are? It's that British, almost a caste system.
Yeah.
Where you have this social system where you get in line, boy. Look at all these people. You get in line and you work your way up, and you fucking kiss ass and you work hard and da 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 da. Right? The same person in 1990, I came to America, came to LA. Same methods of trying to make it, quote unquote, right? And they went, who is this self-confident kid? You know what I mean? The cocky just, from a negative, cocky just became a self-confident kid, and they'll give you a chance. That's the States. They'll go, prove it. Prove it. My first commercial, they gave me a chance. I don't know, my first film, they gave me a chance. The writer gave me a chance. DreamWorks gave me a chance. Roger gave me a chance by signing on to the film. The actors, they gave me a chance. But then you have to prove it. Otherwise, you're fucked. Nobody will ever give you a chance again.
You are 100% right, because, and I agree with you about that thing about Canada and US. This is not even in the film business. It's just in general.
In general, yeah.
There's just way many opportunities in the US, and people believe in you. Even in my, so the film that I talked to you about, Citizen of Moria. Aside from that, I did another film called In Search of My Sister, which is about a Uyghur American activist whose sister goes missing in Chinese concentration camp. And the person who actually believed in me was an American. And he backed me up, and Jeffrey Katzenberg said this really well. And I absolutely made that my motto. If you don't believe in yourself as to what you were able to achieve, how the hell are you going to convince anybody else that you can?
Well, that's what I just said. That's what the answer to your question was. You have to.
That was not for. That was not for me. I was just asking for the audience.
Even if you seem like a fool,
Yeah.
It's not bragging if you can prove it.
100%.
If you can prove you can do it, it's
100%.
not bragging. It's not saying, oh, watch me fucking jump up 3 feet. Grab that branch up there. People go, oh, come on, it's a branch, and suddenly you do it. And you go, not bragging anymore, right?
Yeah, and that's what it is. Like when you have something to back yourself up. When I asked you that question, I was just asking anybody who was like, there's a lot of young people who are trying to get into the film business and other stuff, and it's sometimes it can be discouraging. But my whole theory with that is, if you really want something, you are gonna go through mud. You're gonna go through garbage. You're gonna
pretend you're not afraid.
But people do, though. That's the thing. That's the difference between people who are super successful in this world and people who are not. The fear factor.
Exactly. It's the difference in Elon Musk and a million other people, who
it's not like they were born into some kind of,
Steve Jobs and a million other people that, pretend you're not afraid.
That's all it is. No, that's great, man. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being honest and blunt. And
Thank you.
I will. So should I send any of the links to your agents or?
No, put them right here in the chat. Or you know what? I'll give you my email.
Sure.
Just email is very simple. Vadim Perelman at Gmail. You can cut that part out of the podcast.
Yeah, of course. I will. Just give me 1 second.
It's my first name and last name in Gmail.
Perelman. I just want to make sure I got that right. Okay.
You better.
And you said, are you still in touch with Gore or Michael at all?
No.
No, you're not. And how about Ben?
Yeah, Ben's still in touch.
I'm just putting it out there, and I think it can work if you feel comfortable. We reached out to Jennifer and Ben's agents as well. We haven't heard back. I don't know what the protocol is for that. If that's something that, if you feel
to the agents. No, I'm not going to ask him for you.
All right, no problem.
Yeah, no, okay.
Hey, I tried.
Yeah, it's fine. Of course, no problem.
Great. I will send that over to you in a little bit, and then we'll keep you posted about the.
Okay, what you could do is you could tell them through the agents. If you have another conversation, you could say Vadim really enjoyed it and recommends it to a certain extent. You can say that.
I will do that then. Fantastic.
Jennifer, I haven't stayed in touch at all with, but
Ben is good enough too. Where are you in Vancouver? In Surrey, Brentbury, or?
No, sorry.
I'm joking, man.
No, I'm in Gastown. I'm right in the center of it all.
Is that near Whistler area or no?
No, it's downtown. It's
Okay.
the old area where the clock is.
Okay. Great, man. Perfect.
Okay, so send me your links and I'll respond to that with the link to the film.
I will.
But then you better write me your opinion.
What was that?
You better write me your thoughts on the film. The
will.
Persian lessons.
And I expect the same from you.
That's good. That's like fucking cocky. You're so cocky. All right. All right.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment. And do come back for another episode. Until then, have a great day.